Rockies and pulled into Vancouver, British Columbia. It's here in Canada. The names like Goodyear and Tracy are shouted with gusto by enthusiastic IndyCar fans. In Canada, they know and love their racing. For that excited throng and the teams they admire, it's been a festive time. The parties and practice are over. Race time is at hand. This is the fourth run in Vancouver. Each has delivered its special moments. Al Unser Jr. won here on his way to the championship. Michael Andretti twice won here. The battle for the PPG Cup continues. It's a perfect day, crystal air, for the Vancouver IndyCar Grand Prix. Hello, I'm Paul Page, and we've had a fascinating qualifying session here that ends up with Scott Goodyear on the pole in front of this Canadian crowd. And Bobby Rahal will start alongside. Now, Derek, two Lolas on the front row.
Well, just when we thought it was safe to start touting Penske as the dominant car at the end of the season here, suddenly Lola takes the fight right back to them, qualifying 1, 2, and 3.
Now, what does this do to the points fight?
Well, I think although Emerson Fittipaldi is running second at the moment, the championship fight seems to be between Paul Tracy and Nigel Mansell, because Emerson has gone off the boil just a little bit. Now, Rahal and Goodyear could become spoilers here. Remember, Tracy needs to win, Mansell not score to make this championship fight good. But anybody who finishes ahead of Paul Tracy will help Nigel Mansell win the championship.
26 Indy cars ready to go. Let's take a look at the starting field. On the pole is Scott Goodyear, the second pole of his career, alongside Bobby Rahal, his first front row in '93. In the second row, Nigel Mansell, who leads the current PPG points fight, and Paul Tracy, the hottest driver on road courses in the series. In row 3, it's Al Unser Jr., the inaugural winner, and Robbie Gordon. The fourth row, Andrea Montermini and Raul Boesel. In row number 5, it's Teo Fabi and Emerson Fittipaldi, who is second in the points fight. The sixth row, Stefan Johansson, who finished third here last year, and Jimmy Vasser. In the seventh row, Mark Smith and Mario Andretti, currently fifth in the points. And we take a look at the rest of this IndyCar field as they circulate around the BC Place Stadium here. This is an area that is shaded to the IndyCars. The rest of the track is out under bright sunlight as we look at the field ready to go to the green flag in the continuing battle for the PPG Cup. It should be a spectacular afternoon. The temperatures are in the 70s, 102 laps, 168 miles. The green fuel window anywhere between the 28th to the 40th lap, but we expect that those pit stops should come right about lap 38. Now they are aligned behind Johnny Rutherford in the PPG pace car, that unfamiliar front row for this season, with Scott Goodyear on the pole. The Canadians are very partial to that. And, of course, the defending PPG Cup champion, Bobby Rahal. You look back from Scott Goodyear's car. Rahal moves from position alongside. They come toward the pit straight. And they don't like the start. Not a surprise at all there. So the laps will begin to count, but we're under yellow just for the start as they came off the corner. In their defense somewhat, though, it's a fairly tight distance to the start-finish line coming off of that final corner.
And as ragged a start as I've seen this year, the flagman was correct in throwing the yellow, because Scott Goodyear, remember the controversy earlier in Detroit this year, the poleman needs to lead the race across the start-finish line for the first time. And Goodyear, we clearly saw, was 3 or maybe even 4 car lengths behind Rahal.
The obligation, of course, is for the rest of the field to align off of the pole car. Here is that false start once again.
Track position is so vital here. Rahal is very knowledgeable of how important it is, and he tries to steal a jump on Goodyear. Goodyear didn't bite. And we got to go again, and look who went with him, Paul Tracy.
Now, what Scott Goodyear is trying to do is to find a speed that gives him an optimum gear selection going to the first corner, isn't it?
Exactly, and he has the right to pick whatever speed he wants that suits him and his car and his conditions at the start before they take that green flag.
Here's the course, Derek.
Bit like Monte Carlo, I think, because of the tunnel that they go through towards the end of the lap. It is very bumpy. Their braking zones here seem to be very slippery. Now, track position, I said, is all important. Very often, these races are won or lost in the pit lane.
That comparison to Monte Carlo has been made for more than the track. There's so much new construction going up around here that they are comparing it more and more. Now we take a look. Green flag comes out. Start is good. Here comes Tracy as he tries to dart in behind Bobby Rahal. Scott Goodyear leads them into the first corner. Field must be very careful through here. Already they're single file with Scott Goodyear pulling away and Tracy looking for racing room to the outside of Rahal. Al Unser Jr. comes up to challenge as well.
And Montermini hits Al Unser Jr. He hits his right rear wheel. We saw Montermini's car. Oh, Lyondike is in trouble, but Montermini definitely made contact with Al Unser Jr.
And Lyondike in contact as well. Look at the suspension on the right front. As the course marshals, again, all volunteers here, come out to make sure that he's safe. Now the IndyCar safety team is there as well. And Scott Goodyear, with his first lap, goes unchallenged. The battle develops now for second place with Rahal and Paul Tracy. And we've got a parking lot.
This is a red flag. This has to be a red flag. There is no choice. You cannot drive through 3 cars stopped like that unless they can move it before Goodyear gets around.
There's Griard. Johnny Unser is there head on. And double yellows come out. The pace car will come out and it'll slow the field. And they'll have to shortcut that chicane, come around through the backside of it. As all of them gesture, here's how we're going to get out of this mess.
Back in the field, Olivier Griard. Oh, he spins it in front of Johnny Unser. And the helpless Jeff Wood has to sit there, literally stopped on the racetrack, hoping not to hit somebody. But there is a freight train about to catch those guys at that chicane if they don't slow down under this yellow flag.
Awkward, if not an embarrassing moment, and Griard's engine beginning to heat up the cowling a little bit. That shouldn't be dangerous to him. And Robbie Gordon has a problem as well. So we're talking Lyondike, Gordon, Griard, Johnny Unser, Jeff Wood, all on lap number 1. Now, it looks certainly as if Robbie Gordon is out of action for the moment, but we'll find out about the rest of them. So here is the way they line up with a full course yellow for the second time of the day, and Scott Goodyear is the leader. Today's coverage of the Vancouver IndyCar Grand Prix is brought to you by PPG, world leaders in automotive finishes, by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? And by new advanced high-tech formula Quaker State Motor Oil. It's formulated for today's high-tech engines. Back in Vancouver, where the race is only 3 laps old, but there's already been some action that can have some impact on the overall championship. On the start of the race, Robbie Gordon was moving up, but take a look at Al Unser Jr.
Look at Montermini in the yellow and black Adjiv car down the inside. Look at this. Hits him right there, lifts Montermini's car off the ground. I believe it was wheel-to-wheel contact, which probably will not give Al Unser any aggravation, because sometimes, obviously, if it's the wing that hits the wheel, it very easily slices the sidewall of that tire and would send him straight to the pit lane.
Later on in the same lap, 3 cars involved in a corner, and that brought out the full course yellow. No injuries, but it looked like they were going to have to retire Olivier Griard's car, and they pushed Robbie Gordon's car behind the wall. Let's go down pit side with Gary.
Great disappointment here for A.J. Foyt's team. A.J. incidentally not here with the crew this weekend, Paul. Apparently a half shaft was broken, and that's going to wipe out the best starting position in many, many races for Robbie Gordon. They had another half shaft here in the wall ready to go. It's about a 5-minute replacement job, but apparently Robbie got out of the car. Crew very disappointed they couldn't get the car back here and make this change and possibly get him out there to get more experience, lap time, and possibly some points. Now he is definitely done for the day. Let's go to Jan Bikus.
We're standing by in the Chip Ganassi pit, and we have checked in as far as Arie Luyendyk. He has now radioed in and said, hey, there was a pack-up coming into the chicane. Everybody slowed, I got on the brakes, and then I got hit from both sides. Arie Luyendyk is out of the car. His day is done. The crew's packing up here in the pits. Paul?
Well, Arie Luyendyk will suffer with that. He was 8th into the points coming into this race with 61, but of course he goes home with 0.
And Willie T. Ribbs also got caught in that pack-up. That's the problem when you start far down the grid. Leyendijk was 17th and Willie T. Ribbs was 16th. They could not avoid the incident ahead of them, and then they got clobbered.
You can see the field is shortcutting the course, that chicane where they had the problem. On board looking back on Bobby Rahal's nose cam.
Interesting, we see Robbie Gordon breaking a drive shaft there. That was the same thing that put Al Unser Jr. out of our last race at Elkhart Lake. Broke a drive shaft, which is something very unusual this year. We haven't seen many of it. Suddenly we see 2 in 2 races.
You talk about things that can have an effect as we look at the map of the track here. This track seems much rougher this year than it has in past years. That can affect what constant velocity joints and half shafts.
Yes, it is very bumpy. You know, sometimes it's just the way you set it up. Just sometimes it's just pure bad luck. I mean, they do crack test these parts before they go on the race cars. Sometimes you just can't pick up all the problems.
BC Place Stadium just in front of Bobby Rahal as he moves through the first corner and follows Scott Goodyear. They line up under the yellow with Goodyear in the lead. He has been from the first green flag. This is really our second yellow. Bobby Rahal second, Paul Tracy third, Nigel Mansell in fourth, Al Unser Jr. fifth, Andrea Montermini in sixth place, Raul Boisel seventh, Teo Fabi is eighth, Stefan Johansson is ninth, and in 10th place is Emerson Fittipaldi. Let's go pit side with Jan.
Well, a lot of people here in the pits are talking about where is that speed from Scott Goodyear coming from? Does he have changes on the car? Yes, he has new Lola updates, which are air deflectors behind the front wheels, as well as a new underbody. But speaking with team owner Derek Walker, he says it really comes down to the fact that we're in a Canadian race here. We have a Canadian sponsor, McKenzie. It came down to, for that pole position run, Scott Goodyear working traffic, putting his pedal to the metal, and pulling out what all drivers are looking for, that perfect lap.
It was one of those fun moments, too, to watch at the end of the day when they realized that they did have the pole in the last few minutes. They were all ecstatic. Now, here's that situation again between Montermini and Al Unser Jr. that could have done some pretty serious damage to Montermini.
And both cars luckily did survive. I mean, there's a big squeeze job down there when you get down. But look at Montermini. He actually did break the right front wing. Actually, that's not the one that he hit Al Unser with. So he probably will have to go into the pit lane to have that seen to, because if that flies off at 150 miles an hour, it could easily get up into the grandstand. So Montermini running in his best run so far this early in the race, running 6th, but he's going to have to go and see Antonio Ferrari's team in the pits.
Now through the reports, go to Gary Gerald.
Paul, just a follow-up on Al Unser Jr. We just checked with Rick Gallus, and he said Jr. didn't even acknowledge on the radio that he was aware of any contact. So they don't know of any damage to their car. They're greatly relieved, but they were somewhat concerned to find out that Jr. had been involved in some contact. So apparently, Al Unser Jr. also making his best start of the season up here in the 3rd row, hoping for one of those days where he can get back on the podium.
Quick footnote on Montermini. They are going to attempt a live hookup to Italian television, whereby Montermini can actually talk directly live on television in Italy from the race car under yellow flag conditions. Obviously, he can talk about his own incident. Well, that's probably the one they're going to be watching.
If he's up now, what they're going to be telling the Italian television is he's seen